So, what's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? Jade Farrar coming at you live, obviously, here on Twitch, and I'm joined today by the awesome Epic Studios talent team. She's known by the FBI for gate crashing conferences. It is the one, the only Tony, otherwise known as Ants Burgess.
Hello, everybody.
Wait, just finding your scene. And all the scenes have gone out of whack as soon as I went live. Okay, so we'll have to fix those on the fly. And you can call him anything you want as long as it's not late for cheat day. It is Michael Pullman. How's it going,
What's
Mike?
up, Jade? What's up, man? Good to be here.
I might need to create a different window because as soon as I went live, everything went out of whack. So, that was a terrible introduction of you guys. While I'm fixing this up, why don't you introduce yourselves? We'll start with Mike, if that's alright.
Yeah, cool, man. So I'm Mike. A lot of you on Jade's channel will know me as the real Michael Pullman, and I guess apart from being a streamer, I'm a bit of a public speaker, getting back on the circuit slowly, and very passionate about disability rights and, making sure everyone gets a fair go. And when I do get a bit of time, I also like to blog as well and write my thoughts on all that stuff too. So that's a wee bit about me. And I am desperately trying to lose weight. So if anybody out there has any coping strategies, that would be fantastic, because I could literally just take a bite out of this cup right now. I'm at the edge, Jade. Can't do it anymore.
I see that, Mike. You're withering away, my man. You're withering away. And Ants, over to you.
Hey guys, so I'm Ants from ANTNZ Ants Ventures. I'm a bit of a blogger, do a bit of live stuff on Facebook occasionally. I'm on Instagram, and I'm an outdoor recreation instructor with a mobility impairment and an assistance dog. So I just get out there and live life to the absolute full.
So today's discussion was going to be around, who we are as a team, a squad, and we've independently got profiles that we're trying to develop in the online space. Ants, you're a blogger. Mike, you do a lot of stuff in terms of video content and going live. But really, I wanted to ask the question, why is that? And then, I'm going to be a part of this as well, but I wondered, since Mike went first on the intros, Ants, if you wanted to pick it up in terms of why did you decide to go public with your profile, with your brand, in terms of blogging?
Yeah, for sure. So I started my Facebook page as purely a way for people to have a bit of a look at what I was doing for a climbing trip back in February 2016. I had quite a few people saying, "Hey, what are you up to? I hear you going on the trip." And basically, I didn't want to add hundreds of people to my private profile. So Ants Ventures was born. Back then, it was just a Facebook page. Now we've got the blog, Instagram, and YouTube. And it looks like probably Twitch soon. So that's kind of where I'm at and why I started.
So that's why you started, but why have you continued to pursue it, and why did you join the Content Creators Network, for example?
Why did I pursue it? Because I love what I do, and I had to be realistic that the only way I was realistically going to fund some of the expeditions I wanted to do was to create a bit of a profile and earn some money doing other stuff as well. Really, I joined the Content Creators Network because I get I get sick of the spin that the media tend to place on us. I'm not nobody's hero. I'm nobody's victim. I'm just living my life the best I absolutely can. And you guys have all heard my hashtag Thrive Not Survive, and that's truly what I believe in doing.
Thanks, Ant. What about you, Mike? Where did your journey with content start from, and what starts it? What drives it?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I've always been really interested in social media as a whole, and I started on YouTube way back in like late 2008, and from there it's just sort of gone on and on and on, and branched into Facebook and now Twitch. Um, I just enjoy having conversations with people. I enjoy putting my thoughts out there, regardless of how they're received. And yeah, joining the Content Creators Network was an opportunity to, get my foot back in the door in the disability sector after being blackballed, essentially. And yeah, it's just every day every platform, I guess, is an opportunity to kind of spread my wings and do all those different things that I try and do. So yeah, that's sort of essentially what it is.
Thank you, Mike. And I guess for me, my reasons are actually quite selfish. I started the Jade Farrar show way back in 2011 on YouTube because I wanted to be able to document memories for myself and my daughter. This might sound a little bit morbid, but I've never taken it for granted that I was going to live very long. So it was sort of a way. My daughter's quite young, she's only 6. So I started to think about what might her reality be if she couldn't even remember who I was. Maybe I died due to my disability or something. So I started the Jade Farrar show as a way of documenting my life and being able to show her a little bit about what I was about. So I don't know if you guys knew that.
No, I didn't actually, Jade. And I know for me, I love seeing what you and your daughter come up with on some of the live feeds that you've been doing with her.
Yeah. So
yeah, no, I didn't.
She's more into it than you sometimes, eh?
Sorry, Mike, you were going to say something.
No, I didn't know that either, man. That's really interesting. So, a lot of respect as well. A lot of respect. If only more people did that, it'd be great. Just sort of wanted to add as well, like, I would be lying if I also didn't admit that, I saw other people, doing things on different platforms, and, it kind of inspired me, I guess, to try and do the same as well. So that was a bit of a part of it too.
You also come from a background in radio. How much has that informed your journey with social media, Mike?
Radio's quite a different sort of platform. It hasn't necessarily influenced my social media journey. It's just another string I've been able to, add to my bow, and very thankful for those 3 years at community radio, and it's just a learning experience, so.
So just looking at the notes, the next question we had up, guys, was how do we balance personal brand with personal life? And I guess it is my turn to take the question first, and I really hate the fact that I'm taking this one first, but I've got a really cop-out answer, I think, and my answer around this is I don't switch between two personas. I am who I am. Who you see here is who you get in real life. Sure, behind closed doors with family and stuff, I'm a little bit more raw, a little bit more real. We all have that element to ourselves, which we keep private, but I've opted not to have two separate personalities. That's sort of how I go about my business. Yep. So what about for you, Ant?
I know for me that, sometimes there's that big juggle between personal and my private life and what I put kind of out there. And at times that's a really hard juggling act. I have mental health issues, and sometimes when all that gets a bit much, I just don't come online. And you would have probably noticed that over the last few weeks, I haven't produced a lot of content. I haven't been in the best headspaces, and pretty much every time I went to write something down, it turned into a massive kind of bitch session, and that's not productive for me, and it's not productive for the community at large. Yeah, sure, it's good to be able to vent, but if I focus too much on that negativity and don't start looking after me primarily and just trying to crank out content, the quality is not there. And I don't believe that I have good discussions when I'm in that state. So sometimes it's just turn off the phone, shut down the Skype, and just do what I need to do to get through the day, to survive. And once all those things are in place, then you can thrive. So I guess that's it with me.
So a bit different to me, you actually do keep public and private personas very, very separate then, would you say?
At times, I mean, you see what you get with me pretty much. I'm just more politer, a bit more polite, and probably filter how I say things a bit more in the kind of the public sphere compared to the private.
Sure. Mike, what about you? Personal personal brand versus personal life. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, this has been a thought that I've had since I started on social media, and I think it's something I continually work on. I made myself a promise from day one that I was going to be me. Didn't matter what platform it was, didn't matter what we were talking about, I was going to be authentic. And along the way, I've shared a lot about my personal life, and I've actually shared a lot about others in my personal life, and it's all been a journey. I actually really identify what Ed said. Like I identify as having mental health issues as well. And when I'm tired, when I'm grumpy, when I've got so much emotion, good emotion, it's exhausting. And I'm still learning that balance of, should I go online today? If I think any advice for a streamer I would give would be, number one, listen to your inner messenger. If you think that you shouldn't go on, don't. Because if you're in a bad headspace, you actually are gonna, put out negative energy, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when it becomes counterproductive, it might not be the best idea. So I don't really know, Jade. I mean, I'm still learning how to make that balance. But another part of me really, I enjoy being authentic, and I enjoy the fact that, like even over the weekend, I put up a big thing about my own issues with depression, and I'm quite happy that people get to see that, because it's like, look, like I said, you are not alone. And I just want people to know that, you might be crying and screaming and whatever it is, but guess what? You're not alone. I'm doing it right there with you. So, the positive, the negative, the indifferent, I just try and be authentic online, and sometimes that can come back and bite you in the backside.
Has there ever been a time, Mike, and don't worry, I'm not picking on you necessarily, but has there been a time where you've said or done something online when you are not quite in the best emotional place?
I guess so. The times I've done that, the intent has always been to try and have the conversation and get my thoughts out. So yeah, definitely there's been a lot of times I've done that. Do I regret it? Not too sure. You know, can't really go back and change it.
So for me, I would say that I'm very self-aware in terms of I don't like going online unless I'm 100% happy and I've got total positive energy. Now, while that could be admirable in some senses, there's actually the risk that I'm projecting something that's not entirely authentic about myself. Interested in your guys' reflections on an approach like that. We'll start with you, Ants. If you have an opinion, I don't know if you do.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Jade. Yeah, interesting. Because then are you projecting something that's not truly yourself by only projecting the positive? And that's a question I ask myself at times as well. You know, just because I don't go on saying, hey, I'm in tears today, I've woken up with a migraine or whatever. Yeah, I don't necessarily put that online, but it happens. So I just wonder whether at times this positive only kind of stuff that we sometimes see is detrimental to the community as a whole. But that's just my thoughts on that one.
I hear that. Interested in your opinion, Mike.
I think it's definitely detrimental to only put out the positive. I think, and we as a disability community try and do that too much. I don't know. I just believe in this thing about being authentic and like not shying away from saying to people, hey, I'm not maybe not in a good headspace, but I'm here. I'm gonna try and let's do whatever we're doing for the stream, for the blog, whatever. As long as you can have that mindset that you're gonna do your best at what you're doing, the internal messaging saying, look, I'm gonna do my best. You're all good. Yeah, all of the rest is sort of out of your control in a lot of ways, I think.
Mike says, no, Mike says, Hannah says, hi, Jade, Anson, Mike. So Hannah's
Hey, Hannah.
Hannah's not on screen today, but she's definitely watching, so that's cool. Just looking at the questions. So referring back to the recent Federation conference, Mike, you came up with this phrase, and I really, really like it. Absolutely relate to it in a lot of ways, but we'll give this one to you to start with. You referred to the need for the sector, for the industry, to look much further than just the care need, to go beyond the care need. What does that mean?
All it means is, I'm still sort of developing this in my mind, so apologies if I come across a wee bit scrambled, but I just really think that no matter who the individual is, no matter what the disability is, no matter what the situation is, they need support, right? They need support with their care or maybe access to the community. To me, that's a very fundamental and important aspect, yes. But I also believe that it's actually it's at the bottom. And what I mean by that is you need to look at individuals and work with them and offer support if they want it. That kind of has this whole of life impact. So yeah,
we've got a really interesting question over on Twitch. I don't know if you guys were in a position to accept questions today, but I'd really like to take this one if we could. So we've got a message from our friend Eternal Quasar. And he says, how do you feel towards the victim mentality of the disability sector? And I probably need to chime in on this, but I'll probably go last. Who wants to take that?
Ooh, I could take that one. Personally, I think the victim mentality is understandable. People have been treated like shit for a very long time. So I get it. However, I think sometimes we just need to grow some balls, pick them up, and move on, and make the best with what we absolutely have.
No, I fucking love that, and because
Yeah.
what I was gonna say is a very similar vein. My bias in this particular conversation is that I feel that I was born in a different era where a lot of the hard work has been done for us. I don't really feel as if I was all that oppressed. I didn't really feel as if I went without too many resources. I actually felt quite well looked after in terms of my care needs and in terms of my ability to interact with the wider community. So when people talk to me about the victim mentality, two things happen for me. One is I don't understand it, and I'm all about self-sufficiency and people, living their lives how they see fit. And two, I absolutely appreciate that for some people, whether or not I understand it, the reality is there. They live it every day. They've been oppressed, and things have happened to them. So they do have a victim mentality.
Can I just there's a one saying that I picked up years and years ago on the old Inside Out, which was before Attitude TV, and it was a guy and he was saying, a person's disability can sometimes be a magnifying glass to their soul. If a person was a really good person and they acquire a disability, they're probably going to kick ass. If they were an asshole before they acquire a disability, they're probably going to be an even bigger asshole afterwards. So, I think at times, our impairment can put a magnifying glass on who we are deep down inside as well.
Awesome. Mike, did you want to chime in on the question from Eternal Quasar at all?
Yeah, I totally agree with what both of you said. I think it's understandable why people feel the way that they do, and I'm certainly not, trying to say they shouldn't feel that way, but, at what point does it become counterproductive? At what point does looking back and talking about all the wrongs that happened to you and your whānau, when does that become counterproductive? And I think that we also need to be very careful about some influences in our community who try and very successfully, talk about how they were a victim and how they came away from it. If we focus too much on the victim side of things to try and inspire or whatever, create a personal brand, I think that can become quite dangerous, and we could all sit, you, me, Ants, we could all sit here for an hour talking about how wronged we feel at times, and,
I think we've all sat through conversations like that anyway, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. And is it gonna make a better system in the mid-central? No. Is it gonna make us feel better? No. Is it gonna make the stream better? No. All it's gonna do is project negative energy, and sometimes negative energy you can actually pick up on that and turn it into a positive, but it's much harder if the whole vibe of the conversation is victim and negative, if that makes any sense.
It does. And I'm just getting the next scene ready, sorry guys, because I realized as soon as we went live, Skype absolutely packed the shit for some reason. Sorry about this.
That's all good, man.
The second we went live, all the scenes just went berserk. So I'm the only one still standing in this scene, but it's on the screen right now. We've got Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, I don't necessarily understand anything about this, so I'll let you speak to it and tell us how it relates to Mike's position on beyond the care need.
Yeah, cool. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is one of those kind of human development models that gets kind of kicked around in just about every social services, or for me it was teaching and fitness kind of programs that you're on. And it's just a way to look at what we need as people to actually hit that top peak called self-actualization. Some people call that peak flow. And that's just when life is it's all on fire, man. Everything is going great. Things are, and everything's falling into place, and you are just cruising it, and life is choice. Okay. To tie this into Mike's beyond care needs stuff, is we start looking at it from the base, which is the physiological or the basic needs of a person. So usually people are talking about food, water, shelter, those sorts of things. Some people would argue reproductive rights fit in there as well. So, I mean, Mike, that's a whole nother discussion we can have at some stage, I'm sure, my man.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, so those physiological needs that we all need, water, sleep, those sorts of stuff, okay? And then once you've got those sorts of needs, you can start thinking about how do we keep ourselves safe and boundaries. And that's what that second tier kind of is, making sure that we've got boundaries and safety. And way back when, that was kind of, if I put my hand on the fire, it's going to hurt safety stuff. And now it's a bit more around how do we keep ourselves safe within our community. Once we know that we're safe, we kind of start bringing in the next part, which is the love and belonging. So that's when we start looking for community. And I've had some quite long discussions with people in the youth sector talking about, this love and belonging aspect being where a lot of our youth gangs have come from, because our young people are looking to belong to some form of network or community group or whānau, and it's just not there. And then we start getting the happy and the esteem. We start getting the happy, feel good kind of stuff. So what are those things that we can help people to have a better perspective on themselves? And that's the esteem stuff, because we've all got to feel good about ourselves. Otherwise, we're just going to probably start not looking after our physiological needs or our safety needs. So if we've got our esteem going well and things are really fitting into place, that's when we start hitting that self-actualization or the peak flow state. But for me, that going beyond care, that care stuff is those basic physiological needs and those safety needs. And when we start looking at those other levels, that's when we can start looking at how do people relate to the community? How do we get them safely into their community? How do they belong to their community? And what are those sorts of things in their community that can actually raise them up and help their esteem? So I guess that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs in 5 minutes or less.
So this might seem like a challenge to you, and it kind of is.
Yeah, man.
It kind of is, but I'm just thinking, what role do we have as content creators, as online personalities, to contribute to this hierarchy of needs? First of all, what is our role here? So let's say we accept this to be true, and I have no reason not to appreciate the hierarchy. What is our role as content creators?
See, I think we could start as creators. We can bring more people into that love, belonging kind of space. Content creators, we're supposed to be a network, yeah. So let's get networking and getting more people into that. I think also it's partially that safety stuff as well, because we're in a place where personally we can safely go forward and tell our stories. And hearing other stories around you makes it a slightly safer kind of prospect telling your own. Gotcha. So I guess that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Mike, do you agree with this model? Have you heard of this model before?
I've seen it before. What I do want to say though is, I totally agree with everything Ant said. And if we're going to be talking about like the systems transformation, for example, I am a believer that like if we're going to use that, none of these aspects, none of these values, if you like, should be capped by the system. And a simple way of trying to explain what I mean is that you can't put restrictions, be it from a budget standpoint, be it from a determining what a person can be eligible for in terms of funding or equipment. You can't cap that. People need what they need, and the only way that they're going to be fully enriched is having all the knowledge about what they want, knowing how to get it, and a system that doesn't say, well, here's the amount of money you're going to get every year, make it work. I don't know if what I'm saying actually makes sense, but what do you think about that, Jade?
So because I do come with a bias around this, and this is gonna sound really rich coming from someone that's part of the national leadership group, right? But I come with a bias in this, and it's something like this. Do we need a system that takes care of us, or do we need a system that enables us to take care of ourselves? So if you want to know my position, because I know I posed that as a question, my personal belief is we need a system that enables us to take care of ourselves. If I had the opportunity to not rely on any government resources, and I had all the support to turn Epic Studios into the multinational conglomerate that I've always wanted it to be, in, turning over tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, then I wouldn't need the system. But accepting that there are barriers in terms of living with a disability that I face every day. So to bring it back to the point, what I personally want, is a situation that the system is enabling me so well that I no longer need them anymore.
Yeah, I think we need to be very careful about that word enabling, though, right? Like, this is something I've been battling with internally. Like, when I think about enabling good lives, yes, okay, this is going to enable people to live better lives. But who says that it's the new system that will enable this? I don't necessarily think it's a system. I think it's the values we put into that system. Just curious.
There's no disagreement from me there.
I just don't like the word enabling. I don't know why. I'm wrestling with that at the moment, literally.
Is that because, Mike, generally you've heard enabling from kind of more of an addict's perspective, or a codependency model?
Yeah, sort of. I just think, like, enabling good lives. Like, this system has enabled your good life. I don't know.
So I think you and I, Mike, are actually saying the same thing. So you don't like that the system will be responsible for our good lives. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because I think what that will end up doing is making them feel like they have a lot of credit for enabling people's good lives when it wasn't them. It was, yeah.
Yeah, it's their own personal responsibility too, is what I'm getting at, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anything else you want to say on that, Ants? I realise we didn't give you a lot of airtime on what I just said there.
No, it's all good. I mean, I'd like to see a system that will give people a hand up where they need it, but not be so reliant on the system as you see some people now that, everything is handed to them, so they don't actually get up off their ass and do anything to improve themselves. And let's face it, multiple systems that people have to work within government at this point, they're a nightmare. Let's face it.
So we've got a comment from Hannah. Thanks so much, Hannah, for being a part of the discussion today. It's really interesting how you have related being a content creator to the social model being Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Makes complete sense. So I think that compliment was directed at you, Ants.
Oh, thanks, Hannah. You know me, I just draw weird connections to places. And sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. I'm glad this one did.
So the next question we have on our very robust notes here today, guys, is one around community. Now, clearly, we all belong to the disability community, but how else do we identify? And I'll let one of you take it first because I think I went first last time.
Yeah, I think I've had a lot of people say to me in the past, "Oh, you don't, you don't identify as a disabled person, so how can you be an advocate for us?" I identify as Michael Portman. I'm a part of the disability community. I guess I'm a part of the streamer community. I just belonging is very important, but I think a lot of us actually don't feel belonged, and that really sucks. And I think we saw a bit of that in your stream last night, Jade. With what people were saying about how they were feeling. So, to me, how do I identify in terms of the notes we got here? I'm me, I'm Mike, and yeah.
Cool. Ants, you're obviously a
Yes.
part of the disability community. You've shared your journey with mental health, but giving you the autonomy around your identification, how do you identify?
Me, I'm Ants, and I'll often finish my mihi with Nainera ko Antsa ho, with his, besides all of that, regardless of iwi, hapu, whānau, I am who I am, and I have a lot of, I have my feet in many worlds. I'm gay, yeah. So I think at times we identify with one community too much, whereas we all need to remember that we're actually part of multiple communities, and sometimes we need to walk in both worlds. There was a huge issue at Pride in Auckland this year around accessible car parking, and how do we walk in our, if I'm probably going to annoy people, how do I walk in my queer world if I can't even get out of the car? Yep. So I guess that's where it is. Yeah. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at, is that we're made up of just so many little parts, and we need to acknowledge each part in a person, because those threads, we connected to all sorts of people in all sorts of weird and wonderful ways.
Yeah, and I guess for me, when I think about how do I identify, first and foremost, like you both have said, I'm Jade. That's how I identify first and foremost. I often have to remind myself that I am a disabled person. I'm the first one to forget that reality, and it's only until there's a moment in my day when I'm reminded about it that it actually becomes an issue. I do consider myself a early stages content creator. I do consider myself part of the online community, and every single day when I'm out in the public engaging with the community, whether it be disability or not, to be recognized for a video I made or a post that I put on Twitter, and to have people that I respect, this is a really recent thing, to have people that I really respect and look up to send me emails asking for my advice. My mind has been blown around that, like I prefer to stay humble, and I prefer to believe that every day I have work to do and there are things that I need to work at. But it is really nice to be acknowledged for my leadership acumen every now and then. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I got told off for calling myself a wobbly walker not so long ago, which I thought was kind of weird.
That person had no right to tell you off for that. Jade, I just want to chime in on something you said, because you know how you brought up about, like, there are certain moments that remind you that you're disabled when you might need a bit of support or whatever. I think one of the big things our community needs to look at, because if we're talking about leaving nobody behind, there are some people with such incredibly high needs that they need support for so much that their reminder of how disabled they are is literally a constant thing. So with that, I can really understand as well how people feel like victims and feel in negative mindsets and literally don't even know how to express that. I think it is crucial that we try and bring those people along with us and give them an opportunity to self-direct. You know, people, like, there are a number of people in New Zealand who are on $500,000 budgets. Imagine how high needs they are, and imagine the circumstance that they're getting that care in. How do we go in there and say, look, are you okay? Because the whole suicide thing that we talk about that's not just the able-bodied community. The mental health stuff is not. It's in our community too.
I think we've got higher rates of mental health issues within the disability community, Mike.
Yep.
So if I was just to unpack this, Mike, I'm really real that I don't want to make this about the transform system, but is your view that there is potential for us to leave the most vulnerable behind, or
Yes.
those with high needs behind?
Yes.
And
because you're gonna look at them in Central, right? You're gonna have so many people. The money only stretches so far. I mean, let's be real about that. It only stretches so far. How do we ensure that people aren't left behind? That's my question.
Safeguarding is everyone's responsibility.
Yeah, so I guess, it's being one of those people at the decision-making table and, talk to it as much as you're comfortable, because I know this wasn't a system transformation conversation we were going to have, but being one of those people on the ground in the mid-central, what are you doing to ensure we support even those with very high needs?
Well, we had a comms meeting this morning to discuss some of this, and it's really going to be around us as regional leadership members actually getting on the ground down and meeting face to face. Stuff the providers, walk around them, and talk to the people. I know that there's a meeting on the 11th with People First, just to start those conversations with some of the learning disabled community. And there was a huge amount of discussion in the safeguarding and networking groups around those with high and complex needs. And I believe there's a whole working group on high and complex needs as a working group itself at this point. And I think it's going to be crucial when the independent advocates come through. And I think that's going to be the real key, is to make sure that we're all looking out for each other. And that was a big thing that came through the safeguarding working groups, is that it's everybody's responsibility to actually look after each other.
So I appreciate that comment, because it's a really awesome segue in terms of the next bullet point that we had down for today, in terms of being advocates and in terms of it being all of our responsibility. The Content Creators Network was started as an opportunity to challenge the disability narrative. Is it working? If you want me to take it, I will. It's just...
Jade, I'd actually like you to take this one first, buddy.
So I think in our small microcosm of the internet, I definitely feel like we're making an impact. My issue is, just as I said it, we are a small microcosm of the community, and my sort of next steps, my real passion is to ensure that we get more reach than we currently have.
Yeah, I think for all three of us, before the network, we were all challenging the narrative in our own way, and I think that's just sort of flowed over. Like you said, Jade, the challenge is reaching other people and reaching people who are actually committed to doing it. You know, like you'll hear a lot of people say, "Yeah, I want to make content," but they don't, and number of reasons for that. Okay, but you're not gonna make change if you sit on your ass and bitch, or you don't do it because X, Y, and Z. I think we are. You know, and from my own personal context, yeah, you know, I have my good weeks and my bad weeks. Sometimes I feel like I'm not doing anything, but I'm pretty confident in where not only this network is at, but where the community's at, and you know, finally realizing that you know we do have the tools available to have these conversations. Um, so it's good.
Sorry, guys. I know we're live, but I've just got to disappear for 2 minutes. Mike, if you could perhaps lead the next question, and I'll sub Hannah in for me. I can't avoid what I have to do, so please excuse me. Hannah's
Cool.
gonna come and take my seat for a sec.
Cool.
I guess from my perspective on this discussion is I never really was a disabled community-based kind of blogger until I got involved in system transformation. And it was just adding to what I was already talking about, which was mainly
But the magic of internet,
adventures.
I've joined you.
Hello, Hannah! Hey, Hannah, I really identify with the comment you made around
How's things
different
going today?
communities.
We're good.
We're good.
We're good. Sorry, as we were.
Oh, it was just Hannah's
Hi, Aunt. How you
comment
going?
around.
So,
Yeah, good. Just identifying with different communities and the medical model comment that you popped up.
so
I guess that's
to
one.
elaborate on what I was actually meaning by that, to answers.
Is
Think we may have lost her. All right, well, we'll just keep on going here, guys. So
Sorry for my delay. I'm listening to you in my ear and trying to elaborate to give you a bit of idea. So I've done a certificate in social work, but through my experience in my health, I found the most frustrating was that I was separated into little bits, and no way did the hospital try to actually recognise that one health issue could be related to another. So that was frustrating, and I'd love to hear from you, Mike, and you direct the conversation.
yeah, I really do identify with that, and I love the comments that you said. So Ants, you were saying something really important there. I just wanted to touch on that about you know your how you're feeling about the Content Creators Network, and are we changing the narrative?
I know from some of my followers that it's some of the first conversations that they've actually had around disability. So I guess for me, having conversations with the wider excuse me community is partially why I do this. As a disability community, we sit around for hours and hours and hours discussing all these issues. But unless we actually take them outside the disability community and get others talking about them as well, we're really not going to be identified or seen as full members of our community.
And that goes back to what Hannah was saying in the comment here. So, you know, this whole experience of medical professionals, you know, you kind of feel like you're being passed around the bush, you know, like you have an issue and you want it fixed, but no one really wants or knows how to fix it. I think that's a huge problem for our community, and you know, it's also a problem for in terms of like, do these medical professionals actually understand about different disabilities? You know, neurodiversity, for example, I think is a huge gap. So yeah, I'm glad you said that comment there, Hannah.
Yeah, and I think it goes past just the medical community as well. From my perspective, you see it a lot in the fitness industry of personal trainers only wanting to tackle one aspect of a person. So, you know, I know a guy that spent all
And
his
actually,
time on a
it also
rowing
goes
machine.
back to yes.
Cool, go on.
Go, Hannah.
It's a bit of a delay here, guys, I think. You there, Hannah? Yeah. We'll just wait for the to come back. Just on the
Sorry,
physical.
I've now got an earbud. There.
Cool.
I should
What
be
were
able to
you
hear
saying,
you. I should be up to date now. So actually, we started having this conversation on Monday night, Mike, and you know, it was really a question that I really wanted to be seen by medical professions. Now, I've always felt my whole life that I've just been separated into bits, and I've hated that. And I've seen, you know, it goes back to when you got asked, you know, do you see yourself as a victim? And I think we ourselves, I myself especially, do not feel like a victim at all. I see that there's a lot of ignorance and a lot of lack of understanding, and people are still afraid to ask questions to actually accept difference. And I find that really frustrating. Do you guys have that from your communities? It is getting better.
I'll let you take that one, Eds.
Yeah, I think it is getting better. And I've probably told you both my my flying story of when I had one of the guys, you know, wheeling me out to the airplane. It was really obvious he was trying to ask politely what my functional ability was, and he was just so nervous, and because he was afraid of using the wrong language. And I think that's where we get a bit precious too, you know. And I actually said to him, "Oh, you've had some angry cripple rip your head off before," and you know, that actually broke the ice for him, and we could have a actual discussion about what I actually needed, which was get me on the lift, get me to the door, and I'm right from there.
And that's something, Eds, that we as a community need to bloody own as well. It's the fact that in the past, and even now actually, we rip people's heads off, and we wonder why, you know, we have situations like that, like where people are so nervous. I think we need to talk about that more, you know, like moving forward. But what do you think about that, Hannah?
Can I have a quick question to you, going back on that? Why do you think there has been so many people actually have this negative persona towards people and, you know, get angry towards people who don't know?
Because they haven't been treated with respect most of their lives.
Yeah, I think that as well. Yep.
I think people are so afraid to even open their mouths, and then when they do actually have the opportunity to, they've often come out with negativity, and it's not been because it's their fault, it's just because things haven't gone right and they're in the firing line. The more people, the more we're seeing around, you know. I think a big thing that Jade always says is that it's not about the disability, it's about the individual and the diversity. Exactly what you're saying about ants. You've got a wide range of communities that you identify with, and that is so true. And I'm an individual. Yep, I live with what they call a disability and what they also call a long-term health condition. But most of all, I'm just me, and it's about having a good time. Now, how can I make things easier for others? And there's a lot of things that I recognize that I'm pretty poor on doing. Just to elaborate on what I'm actually meaning by that, I'm poor on actually identifying and explaining to people about my epilepsy because I'm not there in the moment. I forget to actually identify every time and identify that I could have a seizure because I don't know when I'm having a seizure. And then I think people then are uneasy about that. So I think just having conversations is a big thing and being open to it. And I think, Mike, you're doing a great thing here on Twitch. You're not just talking about disability. You're talking about you and you as a whole person. And I think, Ants, you do a great thing with your content. And I love what you guys are doing with content creators and how we can grow. I just want to know more about who you are and what you guys want to do.
Yeah, I think I've got a bit I want to add to that. We could probably save that for the vision question at the end. So Eds, I'll ask you. So what would your advice be for people starting with content? Is it hard and is it expensive?
Is it expensive? Depends on how much you want to put into it, really. I bought a new laptop so I can start doing more video. I'm videoing straight off my Alibaba Express phone. I don't know whether you'll be able to see that. Might come up. Yep. So you can invest as much as you have into this. I got my 12-year-old cousin's kid to set up my webpage. So I've done it on not a lot of money. I'm starting to, and let's face it, my editing and videoing skills, my editing skills are crap. MJ, who does my editing now, is pretty damn awesome. So it's really up to you how much you put into it. Is it hard? I find the editing side of things pretty difficult, but I'm not a tech person at all. The way I write my blogs is I talk pretty much. I write like I talk for my blogs, and it seems to go pretty well. I've lost the rest of the question. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, no, that was it. I would repeat that. It's just use what you have. You know, to start with anyway, and I think people say like, oh, I don't make content because I don't have the equipment, or like, well, actually, if you have a laptop or even if you have a phone, and I'm not talking a $1,000 iPhone, even the cheaper ones, you can do it. So anything to add to that, Heather?
I just completely agree with that. It's about, one, to do content. It's about your passion, your vision, why do you want to do content? I'd love to learn about your story. Now, you can get your story out there in many ways. You can simply start with just doing content on Facebook. Now, that doesn't cost a whole lot of money. You could even go, not even own a computer and use the computer at the library, It doesn't need to cost you anything. It's all about actually having that vision and making things possible. And then along the way, adding more things, if you want to include video, a phone. If you want to upgrade to a more intense camera, go for it. But I know, speaking from Jade, it was a journey. It wasn't all about all at once, and it is possible.
Yep, totally. And I mean, I've been discovering, and it's been a huge learning curve doing the video stuff. I'm still I'm just going to take heaps of photos so I can chuck it in my blog to break up the text thinking sometimes.
That's good.
And I think just take the risk, put your foot out there and give it a go, because if you don't even try, you're not going to know whether you're going to be able to create a following or have those conversations with people. And I think sometimes as people we get too comfortable in our comfort zone.
Yeah. And just to add to that, Ants, and I think that's one thing that you might really enjoy about Twitch, is that you don't need to be good at editing. It's just straight off, you being honest and hearing the truth about you. So that's what I really enjoyed about Twitch for Jade is, it's not about making things perfect. It doesn't matter about that, it's about you being you. And I think you've got a lot of personality to give. So yeah.
I'm ready when you are.
Cool. We could probably just wait for Jade to come back and he can.
I was just gonna say that I am just gonna hand over to Jade. So maybe if you start off by saying the next question, Mike.
Cool. Thank you, Hannah.
Thanks, Hannah.
Cool. All right. So often the feedback is that I am too shy to get started in terms of making content, or perhaps even, I would say, committing to being an advocate for people with disabilities. What do you think about that, Ants? Do you reckon that's like understandable, but also a bit of a cop out?
Yep. One that I
Yep.
used. Took me a while to get like YouTube and Instagram going, because it's just like, oh, why would people follow me anyway? And then next thing you know, you've got like 40 followers on Instagram, and you know, your scope's growing. But I guess it's just, again, like I said before, is taking that step outside your comfort zone and going for it. We're all shy. I never know if people are going to enjoy my content or not.
Exactly. I think we got Jade back.
I saw this quote on the internet this morning. It's from a Twitter personality I really respect, actually. He said, "The thing to remember about the internet is literally nobody cares."
Either that, or they just care enough to give it to troll.
In terms of you know, being hypersensitive to what people are gonna think, I think what he meant by that is, you know, it only matters that you put time and attention into your content, that you care about your content, and that you believe it can be relevant.
Yep. I would totally agree. However, on the flip side of that, though, I'm sure Ants and Jade, you have too. You know, I've been in that place to where, you know, you put an hour, 2 hours, even longer into a blog or video, and people just, number one, they miss the point. They miss the point of what you're trying to say. And also they just tear you to shreds. And I mean, that can be a very disheartening thing, especially when you're just starting out. But remember, and I always say this, it takes people 10 seconds to type or text or message or comment a negative comment, whereas it takes you 3, sometimes more hours to do that piece of content. So who's the winner here?
Hey, Grey Stash is into the building. He hasn't necessarily got a comment, but just thought I'd let you know, Mike, that Grey Stash is here. I know he's a avid follower of ours.
I don't think he actually follows me, but hey, Grey Stash, how are you doing, buddy?
Is this the
Jade
guy?
One of them. One of them.
So the next question, and forgive me if we've gone here already, but often the feedback is, I'm too shy to get started.
We have, yeah. I'm quite curious on your thoughts on that, though, Jade.
Like, okay, sure, putting yourself out there, developing content, you know, being a streamer. I would say that being a streamer is, if we had a pyramid of difficulty for online content, I would say that streaming is the absolute top of that pyramid. Streaming, engaging with real people in real time, staying engaging, being interesting, and not coming across like a used car salesman is by far the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. So,
and you fellas wonder why I don't live stream heaps.
But in terms of content generally, I think we owe it to the world to at least put our perspective out there. People may not necessarily agree. They may not necessarily watch our content. We may not necessarily go viral. But if you believe that you have a perspective and a viewpoint that's worth listening to, then you need to portray that online as well. And it doesn't even have to be video. Like, if you're not a visual medium person, if you don't want to be seen necessarily, there's blogs, there's podcasts, there's all sorts of different ways that you can develop content that doesn't require you to show your face. So for people out there that are saying, I don't want to show my face, I want to remain private, I want my privacy, I don't want to ever to spend a lot of time, you know, making my house look pretty so I can go online, then don't.
Oh, one thing I do want to add though, and you know, every single night, I don't know about you, Jade, but you know, I go live at 7. Um, I try throughout the day to really not think about what I'm going to do at all. And around about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you know, I'll start sort of gearing up. And you know what? Every single night, I'm always like, it's a good feeling, but it's also a very stressful one. And it's like, man, am I going to be good tonight? Or, you know, what can I say? And then after the show, even if you have a really good show, my immediate thing is like, actually, hang on, what did I do wrong? And then I spend the next hour internalizing all that. So, and that might just be me. But you know that's part of the journey, man, and it keeps you in check. You know, it sort of comes back to this being in touch with your inner emotional side. You know, I don't know if enough of us really are to get really emo on the joint.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. We are what?
Are we like? Doesn't matter. Move on.
Because the last point that I was gonna make is, you know, there's a spectrum of production value. You're gonna have those people that pull out the red epics, you know, to be able to produce like cinema quality content, and you got people on the vlogging cameras, and you know what? In terms of their value to the conversation, they both matter. Fancy cameras and fancy microphones don't make the best content. The best content makes the best content.
Best content comes from the heart, bro.
Yep.
Yep. Cool.
So we're almost at the point where I sort of allowed an hour for this. We've gone a little bit over, but there's a couple of questions left. So, what does success for you personally, in terms of your brand development, in terms of what you're trying to bring to the table, what does success look like? Who wants to take it?
To me, success looks like getting rid of the petty bullshit in our community. You know, allowing everybody to be a part of the discussion, and to get rid of the bullying that exists in our community as well. That's sort of part of it. In terms of my brand, you know, making good content, getting some, you know, enough people following me to hopefully one day make a living out of doing this. And yeah, it's just that's it really.
What about for you, Ant?
Yeah, and I guess that comes down to the conversation around how do you define success as well. I know for me, having conversations with people that they wouldn't normally have is some measure of success. Brand-wise, I want to be delivering top-notch adaptive outdoor recreation and fitness programs to other instructors, so people with impairment can access recreation activities far more readily than they do now. So I guess that's what success looks like for me, is being able to pay my bills, having a roof over my head, having my dog at my feet, my partner by my side, and just moving on through life, having conversations and enjoying people's company.
And I guess, you know, when I think of success, there's those mainstream variables of, you know, generating income, having resources, that kind of thing. But you know, for me personally, success is enabling other people to have the same opportunities that I do and beyond. Because there are some, you know, skills and talents that I absolutely don't have, but you know, what is the opportunity for me to contribute to nurturing those skills and talents? So that's really what, you know, incubating talent team is about for me. It's not about me. It's not necessarily even about making money. It's about accepting the fact that we have super talented individuals in our community that just don't get a shot. And I've had many shots in my life and many people around me that have wanted me genuinely to do well, and I just wanna feed that back in. Like, plain and simple, that's what success is about for me. And the last question, and this is a bit of a heavy one to end on, and we'll give this one to you, Ant. What is your vision for the disability community?
Well, it is a curly one, Jade. My vision for the disability community is that people have the opportunities to thrive rather than barely survive. I'd like to see us working together rather as a community rather than lots of separate factions kind of trying to chip away at the same stone. And I'd like to see people just be able to take advantage of the skills and the talents that they have without tripping over barriers every 5 feet that seem to be entrenched in our system. So that's what I'd love to see for our community, is just for people to be able to interact fully in their own lives.
Yeah, I think, my vision, the immediate vision for this community is us actually walking the talk that we talk. It's shocking to me that so many people are unpaid for the advocacy that they do. I'm not all about money, but seriously, people were blood, sweat, and tears into this, and they're getting next to nothing out of it, apart from maybe a box of chocolates. I think that's one thing, but really, like Ant said, it's just coming together. We're all working for the same goal here, but I think we're placing barriers on ourselves by, having these certain ways of getting to that one goal, and one group will do it. One group has more resources than another. I don't think there's a lot of equality in our own community. And how can we achieve full equality for people if we aren't even coming from an equitable mindset within our own? So that's the vision. It's sort ourselves out first and then, move forward. And the only way we're going to do that is by allowing a non-exclusive opportunities for voices.
I feel like there's a real opportunity for us to, like, this wasn't one of the questions, obviously, but Mike, you have a really strong opinion that even as oppressed and as restricted as we are as a community, you feel, I'm going right head on at it, you feel that the disability community often discriminates against its own.
Yes, 100%.
I'd agree.
You as well, Ed. You as well.
Yeah, mate.
Because that's really interesting to me, and full disclosure, I went through a period of time where I definitely experienced that for myself, but that was a few years ago. You know what I'm saying? That was almost 12, 13 years ago when I would argue the disability community was rather primitive.
So, Jade, in the last few months, through system transformation, I have actually been asked why I'm on the regional leadership group, considering that I'm not that disabled.
Wow.
So, yeah, it happens, man.
So I take that to mean that people that have been trying to qualify your validity almost.
Correct.
To be a part of the disability conversation.
Correct.
Yep.
So, Mike, like, for those that don't know, because we're going rather mainstream being here on Twitch, I know you've had a lot a lot of conversations about it on Facebook, but we probably haven't necessarily
yeah.
brought it to light so much here. So,
Mm.
your journey of being discriminated against by our community, what does that look like?
Starts in 2015. So I, on public speaking here, there, and everywhere. Launching, like working with local media to help promote enabling good lives in the Waikato. Everyone and their dogs telling me how great I am and how inspirational I am. After about a year, I start saying, look, I don't want to talk about my journey anymore. I'm not anything special. I want to talk about the issues that I feel we aren't talking about. From there, I lose a lot of friends. I fall out with Enabling Good Lives Waikato, even though I'm a participant. I make mistakes. I come very close to, ending it all, and I'm back now because I do not want anyone getting to the point that I did, and that's why I do not like the word enable, because seriously, I think that's wrong.
So, if I was to
I
like,
don't want to get the email, Jade. You asked me a question. I'm just giving it to you, real one.
yeah. Yeah, just to add
So
my
what I'm
sorry, go.
No, I'm just hearing from Mike, and I mean we chat fairly regularly and catch up. Mike, what I'm hearing is more a resistance to enabling being used as allow. Would that be more accurate? So for you, it's a feeling that they're allowing you to have a good life.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way. And I think that I don't know. It's just it's a very dangerous road when you throw people a lot of money every week and you just say, here, go and make it work, without no training, without no support. And then when it goes wrong and you end up in a legal situation, they're still not supporting you. You're out on your own. And people need to know about this because that just happened to me. And Jane, I'll shut up now, I promise.
No, because what I'm hearing, and we can definitely follow this through, is that while we have been positioned as leaders, as advocates, as role models, day to day, we have things that we're dealing with. That's what I hear when I listen to Mike tell that story.
And the fact we're human, and we fuck up, and I think we need to, in some ways, be allowed to fuck up so we can learn, but we need to do that in a way that teaches people in a positive manner rather than you feeling like shit that you've stuffed something up, I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. And Mike, I am sorry that you've gone through that, and whatever we can do to best support you on the other side of it, bro, you know how to get a hold of us.
Yeah. No, I just want to ensure that, because I know other people here that are going through the same, and it's actually really refreshing because, I've been, like I said to Jade, I've been on the outer for a while, and to be back is really good because I know I'm not alone now, and I think for all of us, we need to stop and think, what's really going on here? How happy are our people really? And I made a comment at the local meeting the other night, like how many voices do we actually have in terms of evaluations and stuff? You only get the really good stories getting published in the Waikato Report, for example, and there's actually a lot more diversity going on than what is known to the people at the top, making the decisions. So yeah, I just really wanted to just say that so we can all think, like, wait up, what's actually going on here?
Again, it's that leave nobody behind stuff, man. And
Mm.
to me, making sure that people have the capacity and capability to be able to manage themselves is kind of where it needs to be as well.
Mm. And I guess accepting that I agree with everything that's been said. My vision for the disability community, regardless if people identify with the disability community itself, it really is about self-sufficiency, and the perspective that I bring to the table on this is I don't think we talk enough about self-sufficiency. I don't see the disability community at large getting together and giving each other a hand up, where those of us that have really succeeded in big ways, give that leverage to other people. My perspective is that I often see a lot of very successful disabled leaders kick the ladder out, for lack of a better term. I saw that when I was on my way up, and I see it now. I see it around me. I see disability leaders get a little bit of leverage and then kick the ladder out from under them. So what is the opportunity for us to, reverse engineer that? And instead of racing to the top and kicking the ladder out, helping each other, because it's in the best interest of all our futures, our families, and for some of us, our children.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way we're going to really achieve that equality that we're talking about. We need to do it. We need to do it in-house before we can achieve it mainstream.
So we're at the point of the show, guys. We're at the end of the notes and probably at a good place to wrap up. But I really wanted to give both of you a minute or so just to share some final thoughts.
Go ahead.
Leaving me to it, bro. Jade, Mike, thanks for the opportunity for being here for this panel. And it was a pleasure to have you guys down in the Manawatu last week for the conference. For anybody else who doesn't know me out there, hi, it's been awesome having a bit of a chat with these two guys and maybe popping my perspective into the Twitch space. And just remember, thrive, not survive, people.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure to actually be in Palming as well in the Manawatu, and a lot of good energy down there. And we will not, I hope that conference really did achieve something, and we sort of say this at the end of every conference. But what I would say, is, I try to be real today, and that's what I do every stream, and I'm very positive about where we're going, and I think that if we can just create a community that is non-exclusive in terms of who gets to have a say and who doesn't, I think the sky is really the limit. And once again, if you're going to raise a problem, bring a solution as well. But sometimes we also have to understand there isn't an immediate solution. So it's about finding the middle ground, and it's about understanding that my reality and Jade's reality or whoever, it's just not the same as anybody else's. No individual is the same. So we have to create a community that allows those individuals to have their lives, be able to be in charge of their own lives. And that's what I'm passionate about, as well as making sure nobody goes through what myself and others have been through. So, yeah.
And just from me, first and foremost, it has been an honor and a privilege to have Mike and Ance on the show this afternoon. I know that you guys are very busy independently working on your own personal projects and continuing to build the conversation online. So for you to take almost 30 minutes over what was scheduled to be here with me and contribute to this. It means a whole lot. Second to that, thank you for believing in the Epic Studios talent team and being a part of that, because I think it can often be overlooked, the fact that you guys have trusted me with being able to contribute to your brands, and I know we're very much in the early stages of doing that formally together, but you know, I'm very humbled that you allow myself and the Epic Studios team to be along with you. Big shout out to the Twitch community that has been alongside us for the whole stream. I've been tracking the numbers, and we've had about 5 people in the room the entire time. So appreciate your time and attention. If you feel like being awesome and you want to contribute, one of the best ways you can do that is to click the follow button at the top of my Twitch page. But for now, guys, thank you for being a part of the channel. Thank you for being a part of the community. And we'll see you in the next one.